Graeme Codrington.
Hi everybody, good morning. It's great to be with you. Sorry I can't be down in gorgeous Cape Town. I'm actually coming down to Cape Town twice next week, but just couldn't get down yesterday and today. I was actually due to be in Hong Kong right now, but my schedule has changed. So I'm in Johannesburg with no electricity. And so we've got a generator humming in the background and all the neighborhood dogs going crazy. So I hope that that doesn't interfere too much with what I'm doing here. My plan is to talk for a little bit and then give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. So if you have questions, just jot them down and I'll give you a gap then to ask those questions a little bit later. I was asked to speak on the future of speaking to corporates. So how to speak in the business environment. Can I just see by show of hands, how many of you focus on the business world? So the majority of your clients are in the business space. Excellent. So hopefully when we get to the question time, there'll also be some other ideas that can be shared. This is what I do for a living. Those of you who don't know me, I've been professionally speaking for 18 years, so full-time income for 18 years, doing it a little bit longer than that, but this is my job. And I specialize really in keynote presentations. So I travel around the world. I do anywhere between 170 and 210 keynote presentations a year. As you heard, all around the world. I was in Paris, Manchester, and London just this past week. Got home yesterday. Next week we'll be in Cape Town twice, and the week after that back in the USA. And the corporate world is changing. In fact, it has changed quite a lot, I think, since the crisis 10 years ago, the financial crisis of 2008. I've seen a number of things change, and I think that things will change again in the next 10 years for a number of reasons. So I want to just talk very briefly about 3 things that have changed recently and 3 things that I think will change in the near future, and then opportunity for your questions. So the first thing for me is that one of the things that has changed in the past, in the last 10 years, and is not going to change again, is that if you're going to be successful in the corporate world, you have to solve a problem. And for me, this is when people ask for advice about how do you get into the corporate world or how do you do more work with corporates. This is quite a big shift for some professional speakers, because most of us as professional speakers, we have a thing or a few things that we speak about. And when we come to events like we are at today and people say, so what do you do? We frame it as I speak on, or I run workshops about. And we talk about our specialist topic, our niche, whatever it is. Corporates are not interested unless you're a superstar celebrity and they come looking for you. They're not looking for a speaker. They're not looking for a workshop facilitator. They're looking for someone who can solve a problem. And so in order to speak to corporates as a career, you need to know what problems corporates have, and you need to know how you can solve that problem. In other words, what is the problem and why are you the solution? Now, of course, when you try and connect then with a corporate, you have to indicate 3 things to them. You've got to indicate, I understand your problem. Secondly, you've got to show them, I have a solution or a set of solutions. And you don't have to give your whole solution away in order to prove that, but you need to be giving enough away so that they are confident that you in fact do have some solution. And the third thing is you have to prove that they should use you rather than somebody else. Because remember, if you looked around the room when I asked who speaks to corporates, this is what everybody wants to speak to. If you cut your teeth in schools and nonprofits and churches or wherever, the real money is in the corporate world. So everybody's trying to get in there. So if you think you can solve their sales problem, or you can solve their communications problem, or you can solve their leadership problem. Well, 20 other people, 2,000 other people think they can do that as well. And those other people are all knocking on the door of this business saying, pick me, to solve your problem. So for me, it might sound like a very small thing to say, but I've seen people who've understood this point I'm making go from really struggling in the corporate space to really flying in the corporate space in 2 or 3 months. Because they shift. If you go and look at your website, if you go and look at your marketing materials, if you go and look at the stuff that you're writing, and I'll come back to all of those in a second, have a look and see, is it framed as, I know your problem, this is your problem, this is the solution, this is why me? Or is it framed as, I am a speaker who speaks about, my area of expertise is the following. To be honest, corporates don't care who you are or what you speak about or your areas of expertise or where you've been or what you've done or what you've studied. All they care about is that you can solve their problem, and it's clear that you understand the problem. So that's the first thing that I think has changed quite dramatically over the last few years, but isn't going to change. The second thing that I think is very important for people who work in corporates to understand is that pricing is very important in a corporate space. And it's not what you think. Corporates will always ask for a discount. They now have, and this is the thing that has changed, and that is that every corporate now works through a procurement process. And what this has often meant is that they have outsourced the closing of any deals. So imagine a conversation. Right, we're having a conference. We'd like to get a speaker. I'd love that guy, Graeme, to speak. Excellent, let's phone Graeme. Yes, he's available. Right, we've got his price. Okay, fantastic, let's book him. Okay, brilliant. Now what happens next is they send the entire conference package. This is the hotel, the travel, the catering, the AV guys, all of the speakers. They send that all to another department called procurement. And this has happened in every single corporate across the planet. Procurement's entire goal is to reduce the cost. So they go to procurement and they say, this conference is going to cost us 900,000 Rand. And procurement says, we'll see about that. And procurement starts the process of coming to each one of the vendors and saying, is this really your best price? Can we have a discount? And procurement is incentivized on how much money they save from the original quote. So, but the bottom line is procurement doesn't have any skin in the game. They don't care whether you get booked or not. And in fact, in the end, you have to get booked because the boss has already decided you're the person. Procurement's just playing a game. So if a corporate comes to you and says, is this your best price? Okay, in fact, we can make this interactive because I can see you guys. I want you to practice with me, okay? It's very, very simple, okay? Very simple words to say. So procurement comes and says, is this your best price? The answer we give, and you can just repeat after me, is yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's see if you get the next one on your own. Procurement comes to you and says, can you give us a discount? Your answer is?
No.
No. Okay, fantastic. You see, procurement isn't going to stop talking to you if you say, that's my best price and I don't discount. They might come back and they say, well, you know, we really need a discount. Then you do this. You say, and you might want to write this one down. You say, my team does allow me to take some of my payment in non-cash value. What can you offer me in exchange for a discount? Genuinely, this is what you must say. And here you can swap a number of things. You can swap marketing. So is this a company that has industry clout? Do they have an internal magazine? Let's say, for example, you're speaking to one of the big banks. They have 40 to 50,000 employees across 30 to 40 different departments. You are unlikely to be speaking at their main event where everybody goes, because they don't have a main event where everybody goes. They have a marketing conference, they have an HR conference, they have an IT conference, they have a women's conference, they have a diversity conference, they have a senior leaders conference, they have a finance and investment conference. You get my idea. They also have a Gauteng and a Western Cape and a Nigeria conference. In other words, every company, every corporate, big corporate you speak to, has 20 or 30 people who are organizing conferences in any given year. How do you get to know all of those people? Well, one of the things you're prepared to exchange for a discount is an introduction to all of those people. So you say, will you put me in touch with every other event organizer inside your bank? And then we can talk about a 20% discount. Because it's essentially not a discount, then you're just buying names. You're paying for marketing. Do they have an internal magazine? Well, say to them, could you feature me in your magazine? And I'll provide you with an article and you put me in the magazine. Do you guys have influence over an industry event? I'll come back to that in a second. But industry events are absolutely essential to connecting with them. Can they put you on stage at an industry event? Because often as a sponsor of an industry event, they get to specify who speaks in their sponsored slot. So you don't get paid for those anyway normally, but at least you get the stage. Do you get what I'm saying? Don't just give away discounts. They will ask, you can say no, you're not going to lose the job if you do. If they push you, swap your discount for something. So get some value out of them. And by the way, you can go further. If you're dealing with a hotel chain, get hotel vouchers. If you're dealing with an airline, get vouchers for travel. Same with the car rental companies. If you're doing some work for DSTV, get them to give you a year's subscription or an upgrade on your decoder box. Honestly, anything. Just ask them, why should you give them a discount for nothing? And they might have something in their storeroom which is quite valuable to you, not really expensive to them. It's worth the conversation. In the end, though, try and hold on to not giving a discount. Second thing to say about pricing is the single biggest mistake that almost every speaker makes when it comes to pricing for corporates is your price is too low. Let me replay that conversation for you. Okay, we've got our conference coming up. We need to have a guest speaker, especially for the second day after lunch slot. So can you bring me 3 names? This year, I want them to focus on innovation. Why not? Okay, so please bring me 3 innovation speakers. Whoever has been given that instruction by the CEO or the sponsor of the conference goes out, researches all of us, comes back with 3 names of people in the room. Who would like to speak on innovation? Let's see hands in the room. Who can speak on innovation? Okay, excellent. I see 4 hands. Excellent. So all 4 of you guys are in the mix, okay? So we've got your names on the list. We go back to the CEO. The CEO doesn't know who you are, and the CEO is not going to watch any of your videos, look at any of your websites, nothing. All the CEO has got is she's got 4 names with maybe 4 titles or 4 little descriptions. So 2 of you might be discounted because they don't like the look of you, or, you know, they want a woman to speak this year or whatever the case is. Nothing you can do about that. But now they're looking at 2 of you, and one of you is going to charge 35,000 Rand for the session, and the other is going to charge 20,000 Rand for the session. Which person do you think the CEO is going to select on that information alone? You might be saying it's the 20,000 person, but let me remind you that this conference is costing them 900,000 Rand. The venue is 500,000. The travel to get everybody there, you know, 200,000-300,000. The time out of the office, if you add that in, is another 1,000,000 Rand. Catering is going to be in the 200,000 or 300,000 of rands. I'm talking about a conference for 30 or 40 people. If we're at a conference for 300-400 people, you know, and it's happening maybe at some 5-star resort, we're talking multiple millions of rands. Do you honestly think that anybody is worried about your fee in the list of that? They're looking at the fee. Good grief. This person is going to cost us 15,000 Rand more than the other person. We're going to be bankrupt if we do that. Honestly, when they look at it, they're going to say, why is this person so cheap? I'm not using them. That's the difference between the corporate market and the other market. Now, if 3 of you are at 20,000 and 1 is at 40,000, the 40,000 will probably get dropped. And that, folks, is why all of you need to increase your fees so that I can carry on charging the fees I want to. Okay. Okay, this is all of us in this together. I'm not wrong about this. Give it a go for 2019. Jack your fees up. Twice in my 18-year career, I have doubled my fees in 1 year. And both of those years, the following year was my best year ever. I dare you. I double dare you to double your fees next year. If you're good enough, and if corporates is your space, why not make 2019 a let's not be scared year? Okay, pricing. The third thing to do, or the third thing to say that hasn't changed is that in order to get into the corporate environment, you have to connect with the senior people who are making the decisions. Okay, that means you can't cold call a corporate. You can't go in via the secretaries. You can't go in via email. You've got to connect with the people who have the problem. So I've said that being in a corporate world is about solving problems. You've got to be able to speak to the people who solve problems. Here are some suggestions of how to do that. 1, find out what they are reading, okay? And if they are reading magazines, blogs, if there's an online thing that they are reading, make sure you write for that thing. So do they read Daily Maverick every day? Well, make sure you write for Daily Maverick. Do they read Biz News or News 24? You know, do that. Get onto radio. Are they listening to which news program are they listening to? Which business program are they listening to? Well, make sure you get onto that program. So you've got to go where they are. So from a media perspective, I'm not a huge fan of print media because I don't think that most of my audience are reading print media, but there are specialized journals. So you know, HR Futures or the Marketing Mix or others. A lot of them are online now, and you've got to do your research. Who are you targeting? What problem are you trying to solve? And therefore, how can you speak to those people? The other big thing to do is industry events. Every single industry, every single function in every single industry has annual events. The banking conference, the CFO's conference, the IT conferences. And you need to find out who the organizers of those are. You need to hound them. And you probably in the first year or 2 will not get paid. You might get paid travel and accommodation. You might not at all. But this is your investment in speaking to the right people. Get onto the stage. And you get onto the stage the same way you get in front of these corporates. I know the problem this industry has. I have a solution. They will want to hear me. This is why you need to hear from me. So all of those are things that I think have changed in the last 4 or 5 years and are not going to change in the next 10 years. Now let me give you quickly 3 things that I think will change in the next 5 years or so. In fact, I'm going to give you 4 things because there's one thing I just haven't said. Just following on from what I've just said about radio still being good, I think TV's dead. I don't know why anybody would want to be on TV these days, but radio is still good. Blogs and online are still good. Those are all controlled by editors and journalists. And you need to realize if you really want to succeed in the corporate world, you have to be part of that ecosystem. So The journalists all know the CEOs all know the journalists. You have to know the journalists too. You have to learn how to connect with journalists and learn how to be near the top of their list. When a problem comes up or an issue related to a problem comes up, you need to be on their list of people they phone. Now, I don't have time to talk about that today, but hopefully somebody someday will do a session on how to get noticed by journalists. My point to you is that you are part of that business ecosystem. You don't stand outside of it, you're inside of it, and you have to be part of it and be noticed. Okay, the three things that are not, that are going to change. The first one, very, very important. Companies want to know, how do we take this back to our offices? They might have always asked that, but now this is a defining feature. In other words, they are not just looking for a keynote presenter or a workshop facilitator. They are looking for someone who will come and give something to their staff that will have a lasting impact on the business. And you need to be able to prove that you can do this. You need to have testimonials that prove that you did it. A testimonial which says, Graeme came and spoke at our company conference and he was amazing. Everybody loved him. Who cares? Everybody else in the room is doing that. A testimonial which says, Graeme came and spoke at our company conference. 3 years later, we're still feeling the effects and we've doubled our sales. Well, if I got a testimonial like that, I'd have it tattooed on my forehead, because that's the one you want. The one that says he or she made a difference in our business for a long time after the event. Our team is put together, you can check this out if you want to, thefutureofworkacademy.com. Check out thefutureofworkacademy.com. It's an online resource that people can sign up to. We provide it for free to any of our clients who use us. They get it for free for 3 months. And it's our way of showing people this is how we get you to take our message back to the office. It's about helping people to develop 8 skills to be successful in the future of work. And almost regardless of the presentation I'm giving, for example, the one I'm giving to you today, this would work perfectly, right? You can go into that website, sign up, and you will learn some of the skills to be successful in the future of work. And even if a lot of our clients don't take us up on the Academy membership, they love the fact that we've thought about it. And they love the fact that we are trying to be proactive about saying how we will make sure that this is long-lasting. So, for example, you could offer a webinar as part of your package. So not only will I speak at your conference in February, but sometime during March, I'll give you a 1-hour webinar with anybody you like to make sure that we follow up and embed the learnings. Half of the clients won't take you up on it, but all of the clients will be impressed that you offered it. So make sure that we give them and show them our intention to take the value back to their office and embed it in their businesses. The more ways you can show them you're passionate about that, the more impressed they will be. The second thing that's going to change, it has been changing and will continue to change, is that lead times are going to just get shorter and shorter and shorter. And this is making our lives an absolute nightmare. I used to get booked 6 to 8 months in advance. The last 2 or 3 years, it's come down to 6 to 8 weeks often. And these days, I think in the future, it'll drop to 2 to 3 weeks in advance, which makes this a frightening business to be in. Because I look at January and I think, how am I going to eat? How am I going to live? There's nothing in my diary for January. But January bookings are only going to come in early December or even possibly in January after we get back from the Christmas break. So this is going to be a scary place to do business. And we're going to have to make sure that we do have some form of passive income or revenue running in the background in order to make sure that we don't freak out every month when we look at the next 2 to 3 months in advance. Sorry, I don't have too many solutions there. I'm just telling you a problem, but it's a problem. And the third thing that's going to change is that I think that companies are going to demand a lot more technology engagement. This kind of session is going to become much more usual. All the stuff you've been learning yesterday and today, I hope you were taking lots of notes, and I hope you create opportunities to practice and practice on each other, because when you do this, you have to know what you're doing. Companies are going to be under pressure in the next few years to not travel, to demonstrate their reduction in carbon footprints, to demonstrate their commitment to the planet. And the easiest way they can do that is to reduce travel to conferences. And if we have a travel element, I think that that's going to, if we can show that we have a history, an archive of virtual engagements, that we know what we're doing in this space, it's not going to be a big deal for 2019. It's going to be more of a deal for 2020. But by 2022, 2023, here's my prediction. It's going to be huge. Okay. I think I've left myself about 5 minutes in this session. Happy to answer any questions on what I've said or any other questions at all.
All right, guys, any questions for Graeme? You're looking good, Graeme.
Thank you.
Graeme.
So, just everybody, the microphone is here, so really project your voice here.
And I can hear perfectly, Ian. Thanks.
Cool.
Graeme, in terms of embedding your offerings in corporates, what are you seeing with online TV as an option? So it's an offering to corporates to take back to their employees. So you can obviously do free and password protected.
You know, Johnny, people are just overwhelmed with content at the moment. And I think that corporate HR, who would be the people deciding what goes onto a kind of corporate communication channel, whether it's TV or podcasts or blogs or an online learning portal, they just honestly are overwhelmed with content, and they are becoming very, very nervous of just dumping more content onto their staff. People are not watching the stuff that gets sent out. They're not absorbing everything. So I think we'll work it out over time, and I think that producers of good content that is really, really valuable and practical, I think there's value there. And if you found a client where there's a particular niche topic and you've got lots of support from the client, then what you're suggesting, and I know some of what you're thinking and producing, Johnny, I think that will work, but not just as a general strategy. That would be for a client that wants it, that's prepared to pay for it, almost the client that's asking for it. To just put a lot of effort and energy into having it as a thing on your bookshelf that you dump on a client, I'm not sure that that's a good differentiator. So if a client asks for it, offer it to them, but otherwise I don't think it's a marketing tool.
All right, any questions for Richard?
Graeme, hi. We're doing Zoom on Zoom here, so we've got somebody, Anil, who's in Johannesburg, has asked a question. You have to then trust me, it's working fine. And his question is this: how do I put an industry-specific presentation together for the corporate world? Anil is a newbie, he's saying, so as a newbie, how does he put a specific presentation together for the corporate world?
Yeah, that's a nice question, and there are 2 or 3 ways to answer that I think will be very valuable for everybody. First of all, if you haven't been focusing on corporates before, you do need to pick an industry to start with. So the first thing to do, and even for those of you who've been doing it for a while and maybe have been a little bit disappointed or frustrated that you haven't been connecting, pick an industry and focus. Okay, the big industries, I'm talking financial services, retail, logistics, mining, and so on. There are too many industries for you to just be a generalist. You need to go in and show them that you've understood their industry. You need to be reading what they're reading, speaking the language that they're speaking. Simple example, if you go into professional services, lawyers, engineers, accountants, and you speak to them about their customers, I promise you will get no work. Lawyers do not have customers. Okay? Lawyers have clients. And if you get the language wrong, you have just proved you don't know their industry. Literally one word. Now, if you go to the retail environment, or you pick up Unilever, Tiger Brands, or something like that, they have customers and consumers, okay? Two different things. If you don't know the difference, you have nothing to say to that industry. So first point is specialize, niche, focus. Second thing is identify the problem. So forget what your expertise is and forget the industry and ask yourself, what's the biggest problem that these guys have got? Is it recruitment? Is it retention of talent? Is it the development of talent? Is it labor relations? Is it financing? Is it exporting? Is it IT? What are their big problems? What are their pain points? What would they be prepared to pay somebody to fix? Because that's the only reason they're going to come to you. Everything else they'll sort out themselves. The things they don't understand and need an expert help for, that's what you can do. So if you're putting together a presentation, make sure you're not asking, what do I know and what do I speak about? Make sure you're asking, what is my understanding of the biggest problem in this industry and what can I say to that problem that will really help them? I hope that helps.
Right, any other questions? Right?
Graeme, Seth Nike here.
Hi there, Seth.
Well, I've been in discussion with you over these matters, but I kind of, just because I'm hearing you live today, well, virtually live, and I'll be bold in just saying it because I know you understand where I'm coming from. You are white and male, and you're an excellent speaker, and you're global. How do we contend with a racialized business space when I'd like to keep my pricing the way that I do, but I get handled by the dealers in a different way because I don't presence as a person who's white and male. So I put that out just respectfully, and yeah. Maybe there's something you can share with us. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Seth. That's a great question. You know, and a lot of old white males like myself, I know I don't look old at all, but a lot of old white males like myself will say, oh, you know, South Africa's gone for us now, you know. I don't know what they're talking about. Seth's 100% right. It's still a huge privilege to be an old white, you know, fairly good at what you do male. And so that is a valid question and an important question. However, of course, we do understand that one of the really great ways that companies can show a commitment to diversity, even if, and I'm being a little bit skeptical yeah, anyway, even if they don't really believe in it, they can prove that they've got some credentials at their conference by who they put on stage. And so there really is an opportunity for all of us. But the danger is if you are positioning yourself as a female speaker, if you're positioning yourself as a black speaker, but that is all you're saying. You say, so essentially you're saying, pick me because I'm a woman, or pick me because I'm a black woman. That's not good enough. Corporates don't care that much about what you look like. They care about your ability to solve their problem. The fact that you come in a package which then helps them to solve other problems is a bonus for them. But you have to put your credentials first and not rely on some of the BEE type quota things that they do. Nobody in this room wants to be a quota speaker anyway, but Seth's asked the pointed question and it needs a strong answer. So that's the first answer. The second answer is Seth, you're also 100% right. And I have to accept, I don't know what it's like to be in your shoes because I'm guessing that people might feel more comfortable negotiating harder with you than they do with me. And that so maybe what I said earlier needs to be taken with a slight grain of salt if you're not an old white male. So I get that. And so please hear that from Seth. It might be slightly harder than I said. However, let me, and maybe I am watching the time, so let me use this to wrap up. You need to do what you have to do to prove that you do have the answers to their problems. And if you look at the people who are busy in this space, we've all done similar things. So have you written a book? A book is still a wonderful way to prove you know what you're talking about. Secondly, do you know what you're talking about? I see too many people in the professional speaker space who spend way too much time trying to hone their signature story and get their laugh line just perfect, and worry about whether they should be wearing blue or green shirts, and not reading the stuff the CEOs of the companies they're trying to get to are reading. Can you honestly say that you are an expert in the industry you're trying to get into? How would you prove that you're an expert? What have you studied? What have you been reading? What courses have you done? These courses are available for free. Go online and do a course on engineering. Go online and do a course on introduction to law. Read a legal textbook. Pick an industry and become a proper expert. This job, I've done it for 18 years because I work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not all killing myself. A lot of it is a lot of fun. But I'm reading, I'm interacting, I'm watching the videos, I'm immersing myself in industry after industry after industry. So become expert and then prove your expertise. Write that blog, create that YouTube channel, put yourself out there. And those of you who follow me, you'll know that I do this. Every now and again, I make a big stuff up. I did a video a few weeks ago on the future of the accounting profession, which a whole lot of accountants really didn't like, because I told them that I thought a lot of what they were doing now was going down the tube. And I mentioned KPMG a few times. And a lot of them got on their huffy horses about how dare I, will I ever work in this industry again? I don't know if I will or not. And however, I was on slightly good ground there because I trained as a chartered accountant and I worked for KPMG. So I did have a nice comeback to them as it happens. But the point is, put yourself out there. If you're trying to play it safe, if you're just trying to inch yourself along, the corporate world is not for you. The corporate world rewards people who solve problems with bold ideas and are prepared to put themselves out in order to do that. I wish you all the success. It's a wonderful place to play. It's where the real money is, unless you're a celebrity. And it's been and continues to be a wonderful career for me. So thank you for the opportunity to chat. I hope this has been helpful.
Let's give a round of applause. Thank you, Graeme, for your golden nuggets and for gracing us with your time. And we hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye. Let's give a one more round of applause, guys. All right, so congratulations to Seth for asking a thumbs up question. I see I've also haven't had the need to erase anybody yet. Please note that is up for grabs. All right. So guys, while we're waiting for the next set up, I'd like to turn to your partners and ask them this really odd question. And the question is as follows. If you could choose your age forever, what age would you choose?